It's 2:43 in the morning. A McDonald's off Highway 74 hums quietly under the orange glow of parking lot lights. Empty wrappers skitter across the asphalt like tumbleweeds. Inside, the night manager sits behind the counter, head low, counting bills that smell faintly of fryer oil. The fryers themselves are cooling, still crackling, still alive. No sound, no warning. Just the whisper of metal flexing above the ceiling tiles. How do you catch a thief you can't see? From the outside, the restaurant looks peaceful, golden arches shining like a beacon for no one. A street lamp flickers in the distance. But on the roof, where the wind pushes against aluminum vents and gravel crunches under boots, a man lies flat against the surface, dressed in black from head to toe. He's not rushing, he's listening. He knows the rhythm of the place. When the fryers shut off, when the manager locks the back door, when the cleaning crew leaves the dumpster pad. He's memorized it, every tick and hum, like a lullaby he's heard too many times. He moves his hand over the vent grate, counting screws by touch. 4. Always 4. He's done this before. A small drill in his pocket vibrates once, then stops. He catches the screw mid-fall so it doesn't hit the metal. Quiet. Perfect. If you were standing in that parking lot, you'd never notice him. You'd just see the shadow of the McDonald's sign stretching across the roof. Maybe a faint glint of something, a tool, or maybe just your imagination. And that's how he liked it. He wasn't a smash and grab kind of guy. No guns, no masks. He was methodical, controlled. The newspapers later called him Roofman. It started as a rumor, a story that didn't sound real. A man dropping through the ceiling of McDonald's locations across North Carolina, always around closing or opening hours, vanishing before anyone even realized the safe was light. The cops thought it was an inside job. The managers thought maybe they were losing their minds. But it kept happening, over and over. One officer later said it's like he had blueprints in his head. Turns out, he did. Back inside, the night manager yawns and reaches for her coffee. The air smells of salt, ketchup, and burned oil. She doesn't notice the faint shower of dust landing on the counter beside her. A ceiling tile trembles, just slightly. Then stillness again. That's what made him terrifying. He could be right above you, and you'd never know it. Now pause for a second. Think about what it takes to pull that off. Not just guts, precision, patience. This wasn't someone chasing chaos. It was someone chasing control. And control, that's a dangerous craving. Later, investigators would learn the man's real name, Jeffrey Allen Manchester, former Army Paratrooper, trained in navigation, stealth, and endurance. He wasn't robbing for thrill or survival. He planned these like missions, detailed down to the minute. He'd scope out each McDonald's during the day, order a Happy Meal, smile politely, maybe chat about the weather. Then when the place shut down, he'd come back and scale the roof, quiet as dust. Sometimes he'd cut a vent cover, sometimes he'd use an old maintenance hatch. Every time, he'd leave almost no trace. Police reports said he preferred chain restaurants because they were predictable, same layout, same safes, same routines. That predictability was his safety net. He didn't trust chaos. He engineered it. Think about that. Someone so disciplined he could map every square foot of a fast food restaurant in his head. That kind of mind doesn't just disappear when the lights come on. One night, a worker swore she saw something, a shadow move across the light fixture. She laughed it off, said maybe she was tired. She had been on her feet for 9 hours. She rubbed her eyes, grabbed her mop, and went back to work. Minutes later, she felt a grain of plaster dust land in her hair. She brushed it off and didn't look up. That was the last normal moment of her shift. And honestly, that's the part that gets me. Because behind every one of these crimes, the stolen cash, the missing night deposits, were people. Ordinary workers, half asleep, just trying to finish their shift. People who'd later swear they felt a presence, but couldn't explain it. The story makes you laugh at first. A guy robbing McDonald's through the roof? But when you slow down, it stops being funny. It starts being human. Because what kind of person does this, and why? See, Roofman wasn't greedy. He wasn't living large or disappearing into luxury. He was meticulous, almost obsessive. He kept logs, maps of roofs, schedules of staff rotations, notes on which locations had thicker vents or newer safes. To him, every detail mattered. Every roof was a puzzle. You could say he was building something or rebuilding himself. But we'll get to that. At that point, the cops had no clue who he was. They just knew they were chasing a ghost who kept slipping through vents. And every time they thought they had him cornered, another McDonald's got hit, miles away, same pattern. When they finally nicknamed him Roofman, it was half out of respect, half frustration. He was everywhere and nowhere. But here's what they didn't know. Jeffrey had a system. He didn't just drop in, grab cash, and run. He'd hide in the ceiling overnight, waiting for the early morning crew to open the safe. He'd listen to their footsteps, the sound of the fryer heating up again, the smell of breakfast biscuits drifting through the vents. He'd wait until the timing was perfect, then drop down, mask on, words rehearsed. No yelling, no chaos, just calm, efficient robbery. He never hurt anyone. He just took what he came for and vanished. When the story broke on local TV, people were fascinated. Who breaks into McDonald's through the roof? News anchors joked about it. Customers made memes before memes were even a thing. But the cops weren't laughing. They saw the pattern tightening, like someone testing them. And maybe he was. Because if Roofman loved anything more than money, it was precision. He needed everything to go exactly right. And that's the irony. When your life depends on control, on mastering every variable, the world doesn't have to beat you. It just has to surprise you once. And it would. Because the thing about control, it never lasts. But when cops finally caught him, they couldn't believe what they found in his backpack.
A siren hums somewhere in the distance. Not loud, just faint enough to feel like a memory. A McDonald's night shift hums under fluorescent lights. Grease traps hiss. Soda machines sigh. The ice bin pops. And somewhere above that ceiling, a man lies flat again, ear pressed to metal, heartbeat steady as a metronome. That man, Jeffrey Allen Manchester, was about to become a ghost story that lived on every fast food roof in America. He wasn't random. He was military. A paratrooper trained to drop silently behind enemy lines. His specialty? Stealth under pressure. He learned how to control fear, how to turn adrenaline into stillness, and now he was using that calm precision to rob McDonald's. Which is insane when you think about it. A man who once jumped out of planes for his country was now crawling through grease vents for Big Macs. By 1998, Roofman had hit over 60 McDonald's across multiple states, from the Carolinas to Alabama. Same MO every time. Enter through the roof, drop through a vent, wait until morning, take the cash, disappear. No 4 stores, no shattered glass, just money gone and employees confused. The cops were baffled. They had footprints on roofs, some scuffed ceiling panels, and a growing list of frustrated managers. One detective joked, "We should just start checking the air vents." Turns out, that wasn't a joke. He'd use his Army training to pick weak spots in the vent structure. Sometimes he'd even study a location for weeks, eating there daily, watching which manager handled deposits and what time the night crew clocked out. He wasn't improvising, he was rehearsing. And every new hit made him bolder. The news station started giving him airtime. Roofman strikes again. Fast food burglar hits 14th McDonald's. The anchors said it with that half-smile tone, like it was both dangerous and funny. But law enforcement wasn't smiling anymore. Because the truth was, Roofman had turned McDonald's into his personal battlefield. Investigators later found spiral notebooks, hundreds of hand-drawn diagrams, rooftop sketches, alarm wire placements, even notes on employee personalities. He'd write things like, "Manager leaves early on Thursdays. Second register drawer light sticks. Safe open, 6:42 a.m. It was meticulous, like a scientist recording data. He wasn't stealing from McDonald's, he was studying it. At this point, people started building myths around him. Some said he never touched the ground. Others claimed he could disarm alarms with chewing gum foil. None of it was true, but the legend was powerful, and Jeffrey liked that. He'd listen to the radio after a job and hear his own nickname, Roofman. The anchor's voice would echo through his car as he drove quietly down empty interstates, and he'd smile, just a little. Then came the mistake. He was halfway through a job, same plan, same rhythm, when something unexpected happened. The alarm didn't stay silent. It chirped once. Jeffrey froze. He'd cut the wrong wire. For the first time, his perfect rhythm cracked. The police were on the scene within minutes. He managed to slip out the back, scaling a drain pipe, but they caught his car on surveillance. A beat-up black Honda, license plate partially visible. When detectives finally traced it, they found his storage unit. And that's where it got eerie. Inside were boxes labeled by city and date. Each box contained roof diagrams, fast food uniforms, vent screws organized by size. There was even a half-finished McDonald's model built out of cardboard, with a small plastic figure crouched on the roof. Imagine seeing that. The FBI got involved next. They mapped his burglaries, small dots across the southeast, forming a near-perfect arc, like a travel route drawn by someone who didn't want to stop moving. When they finally arrested him, it didn't go down in a blaze of sirens. It was quiet, almost cinematic. A plainclothes officer spotted him walking out of a motel near Charlotte. Jeffrey didn't run. He didn't speak. He just sighed and said, "You finally looked up," which might be one of the coldest arrest lines in criminal history. At the station, officers flipped through his notebooks. One detective described it like reading an architect's diary written by a ghost. And here's the part that stuck with everyone. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even ashamed. He was calm, polite, even charming. He told them he liked systems, that he found comfort in repetition. "I wasn't stealing," he said. "I was solving problems." That statement hit different, because to him, every robbery was an equation. He wasn't chasing money, he was chasing perfection. And perfection is addictive. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison for armed robbery, burglary, and possession of stolen property. But behind those walls, something strange happened. He didn't fight. He adapted. He built routines, fixed things, earned respect for being helpful, disciplined, quiet. Inmates nicknamed him the Mechanic because he repaired broken radios and ceiling fans. Control, again. That's what he lived for. And this is where most stories would end. The bad guy gets caught, justice served. Fade to black. But not Jeffrey Allen Manchester. He started studying the prison walls, the air vents, the routines of guards. He watched where the shadows landed at certain hours, how the cafeteria trays stacked, how the laundry carts moved. He was learning the architecture again. Because to him, confinement wasn't punishment, it was another puzzle. Which is insane when you think about it. Most people would crumble under years of concrete and steel. He started building something. And late one night, in a dim corner of his cell, he began scraping away at drywall with a broken spoon. Piece by piece, dust by dust. He didn't have a plan yet, but the instinct was the same. If there was a system, he'd find a way through it. And maybe, just maybe, under all that discipline was something deeper. The feeling that he couldn't exist unless he was moving, fixing, escaping. The guards didn't suspect a thing. He was polite, predictable, the model inmate. But every night, while the rest of the prison slept, Roofman was climbing again. Only this time, he wasn't scaling a McDonald's. He was breaking out of prison. Because his biggest escape was still ahead. He didn't just break out, he moved into one of the strangest hiding places you've ever heard of.
The air inside the prison was stale, a mix of bleach and dust, the kind of silence that only concrete can hold. In that silence, Jeffrey Allen Manchester, Roofman, was already gone. It took guards 3 days to realize it. He'd slipped through a tunnel behind the cafeteria wall, hidden under a false vent cover he built himself. The thing was reinforced with toothpaste, wet paper, and floor wax. It looked like part of the wall. It was part of the wall. He crawled through the gap, followed the plumbing line to a maintenance shaft, and emerged into the open air, free. No chaos, no alarms, just one man walking away in the dark. For weeks, nobody knew where he went. Posters went up, news anchors reran old footage. The legend of Roofman returned, louder, stranger, almost mythical. But this time, he didn't go back to robbing. He did something even more unbelievable. He moved into a Toys R Us. Yeah, an actual Toys R Us. He found a forgotten section of the storage area, a crawl space behind the shelves, and turned it into an apartment. He laid carpet squares on the floor, hung up posters, even had a bike he used to sneak out for groceries at night. He lived there for months, sleeping among stuffed animals and toy displays while customers walked right past him every day. Which is insane when you think about it. A man who used to break into McDonald's was now living inside a toy store, and nobody noticed. Every morning when the store opened, he'd silently slip into the bathroom to shower in the sink. Then he'd ride his bike to the McDonald's across the parking lot and start his shift because, yeah, Roofman got a job at McDonald's. He wore the uniform, smiled at customers, cleaned tables. He was kind, polite, a model employee. He didn't tell anyone his real name. He just said, "Call me Jeff." And somehow, people liked him. He was the guy who helped when someone's car wouldn't start, the one who stayed late when the shift ran over, the one who joked with the morning crew about coffee being too weak. It's wild, right? The same man who used to rob McDonald's now working at one. And maybe that's what he wanted all along. Not the money, not the fame, just a way to be inside the system without feeling trapped by it. He built a life that was quiet, predictable, safe. For a while, it almost worked. But you can't live forever in a lie that well built. Someone recognized him, a customer who saw his face on America's Most Wanted. She hesitated, looked twice, then whispered to the manager. Police moved in later that week. They found him just after his shift, eating fries at a corner table, hands still smelling like salt and grease. He didn't run, didn't argue. He just said, quietly, "I was hoping they'd forget about me." And honestly, that line still hits me, because it wasn't arrogance, it was exhaustion. The kind that comes from running your whole life, not from cops, but from yourself. After a second arrest, something changed. The news stopped mocking him. Reporters started describing him as a strangely sympathetic criminal. Even people who worked with him, the McDonald's staff, wrote letters asking for leniency. He was kind. He worked hard. He never made us feel unsafe. It's like somewhere between the rooftops and the toy aisles, Roofman had turned human again. He went back to prison. This time, no escape, no blueprints, just quiet acceptance. He taught fitness classes, read books, kept to himself. When journalists later asked why he did it, he said, "I liked rebuilding things that were broken." And if you listen closely, that's the real story. It was never about the heaves, it was about fixing something invisible. Maybe his past, maybe his sense of control, maybe just himself. And that's where we come full circle, back to that empty McDonald's at 2:43 a.m., the parking lot glowing under the same orange lamps, a napkin drifting across the ground. Inside, the fryer's cool and the air still smells faintly of salt and oil. It's the same picture we started with, only now you know who was up there on that roof. And maybe why. Because Roofman wasn't a monster. He was a man who couldn't stop trying to rebuild a life he had already broken. A man who found safety in structure, even if he had to climb through ceilings to get it. In another world, maybe he would have been an engineer, or a builder, or just a guy who liked to fix things. But this world only remembered the robberies, the rooftops, the name. In the end, Jeffrey Allen Manchester didn't leave behind a trail of chaos. He left behind a strange kind of poetry, proof that even the most calculated lives can crack open with a little dust and light. His story isn't about crime, it's about obsession, about control, about the impossible need to make things perfect even when you're the one who broke them. And as the camera lingers on that glowing McDonald's sign, wind rustling the wrappers below, the question hangs there, soft, unresolved, but heavy. So what would you have done?